Hi everyone, today we're taking a look at string gem number 17 through 20. This video is for viola only. This is the first time this year I've had to split up lesson videos based on instrument because string gem actually has different parts for each instrument. And so again, this is just for viola, taking a look at number 17. And so violas, you're going to love your first measure of 17 because as you can see, it is a full measure of rest. So you actually start this exercise off by not playing. As you can guess, someone else plays, and actually it's the violins who play while you are resting. But when we get to the second measure, we do start playing, and you can see that number 17 has the title Octave Jumps on G. And an octave is when you play two different notes that are actually 8 pitches apart. And anytime you play two notes 8 pitches apart, you'll land on the same letter. And so remember, there's only 7 notes in the musical alphabet: A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then it starts again. So you're going to run into the same note over and over again as you're continuing to learn new notes on your instrument. And so we already know several double notes and duplicate notes. So when you play those two notes, those notes are an octave apart. And if you take a look at the second measure where you start playing, you start with 3 lower notes and then 1 half note that is higher. Those 3 lower notes, hopefully you recognize as your open G. And then the half note is G 3 fingers on the D string. And so those notes are an octave apart. When you put them together, it will sound like this. Okay, and you notice how I put my 3 fingers down on the D string before I play open G, so that way I can just pop over to D and play the note G. There's no need to hold your fingers off and then put them down really quick. You can actually put them down ahead of time. Help yourself out. Okay, so that's what that measure sounds like. Then measures 3 and 4 have 2 open G quarter notes, 2 3 fingers on the D string quarter notes, and then 2 half note open Ds, which will sound like this. Put that all together. Here's the first line, and I'm going to count the rest too because it's important that you don't forget about the rest. So 1, 2, here we go. Rest, 2, 3, 4. Excellent. Take a look at the second line of number 17. You should see they are very similar. The only difference is that the last measure, instead of having 2 D half notes, you have a D and then an open G. And so really there's only 3 different notes you're playing in this exercise: open G, open D, and 3-finger G on the D string. I'm going to play the second line for you, then I'm going to leave you to piece together both lines. So here's the second line. 1, 2, here we go. Rest, 2, 3, 4. All right, that's all of 17. You can piece those 2 lines together. And remember, I do have the collections of all the parts of each string gem exercise. They are in groups of 4, so actually the group of 4 that we're looking at today, 17 through 20, are all in one video. So you can go on and find your part, which the viola is in the bottom left-hand corner. You can watch what your part sounds like and how it fits in with all of the other parts. But we're going to move on to number 18, tuning our E's. We know that the note E is 1 finger on the D string. And as you look through number 18, you'll see that you only play 3 different notes here: open D, open A, and E, which is 1 finger on the D string. So what I'd like to do right now is go through number 18. We're going to read our notes, and we're going to read them in rhythm, which means that if it's a half note, we're going to hold it for the 2 beats. Quarter notes, we'll just hold for 1 beat. Make sure that we know how to read all these notes before we play. So here we go. D, E, D, A, D, D, E, E, D, D, A, D, D, E, E, A, D, D, E, E, D, D, D. Hopefully you are feeling comfortable with reading those notes. I think at the very least we should know our open strings really well. You should be able to look at that and say, that's open A, that's open D. And then the fingered notes I know are a little bit harder, but we've been working on them for a while, so hopefully we're starting to get comfortable with them. I'm going to play all the way through number 18. If you can't do this yet, don't be discouraged. What I would recommend you do is go through and do 2 measures at a time. So read, there's a good chance if you can't play, you're having a hard time reading the notes. So read the notes for the first 2 measures and then play the first 2 measures. And then read the notes for measures 3 and 4, play measures 3 and 4. Hopefully that makes sense. It's a good process to use to learn something in little pieces. So here's all of number 18. 1, 2, here we go. Again, hopefully not too bad. Many students in lessons got this one right away, which I was really happy with. Moving on to number 19. Number 19 is called Tuning Our F Sharp and G Buddies. And so we're talking about F Sharp and G on the D string. 2 fingers for F Sharp, 3 fingers for G. They're calling them buddies because your second and third finger are close together. And you look at your finger pad and you have a little bit of a space between 1 and 2. So second and third finger, you should feel them touching as you're playing. I really like how they have worked out number 19 because you have 2 measures of playing notes with fingers and then 2 measures of open strings. And then 2 measures of notes with fingers and 2 measures of open strings. So hopefully there's a good balance there. You're feeling really good about the open strings and then maybe still working on the fingered notes. But if you take a look at the beginning, the first 2 measures, we have 4 half notes, and those half notes are D, E, F sharp, and G. And I hope that when I say those notes in that order, you right away think, oh, that's like the D major scale, because we've worked on the D major scale a lot. Those are the notes in order of the first half of the D major scale. And so we can play that together right now. We should feel very confident doing this. So 1, 2, here we go. Okay, those were our 2 measures with fingered notes. Now we have 2 measures of open strings. This should be easy, starting on open D, A, D, and G. Moving on to the second line, measures 5 and 6. It's those same notes from the beginning, but instead of half notes, we're playing quarter notes. D, E, F, G. And finally, the last 2 measures are all open strings, starting on open A. So hopefully you can see the pattern in there, lots of scale-like patterns, and lots of open strings. So again, if you're having a hard time with this, little chunks, little sections, 2 measures at a time would be a good way to tackle this. Also going and listening to what it sounds like, finding your part and making sure you know how fast your bow should be moving, what notes you should be playing at what time. And finally, number 20. Now for all of the, out of all the instruments, number 20 is probably the hardest for violas because there is one new thing in here for you that is pretty tough that no one else really has learned yet and won't learn for a little while. But that is, it's a new note, and if you take a look in the third measure of number 20, the third note, you'll see that that is a much higher note than anything we have played before. It's a new note for violins as well, but for violins, they actually just get to play their open E string, and so it's kind of an easy new note. For you guys, for violas, you don't have an E string, and so we've run out of fingers. We've put down 1, 2, 3 fingers on the A string. It doesn't seem like there's anywhere else to go, except that we have yet to use our pinky in lessons. When you put your pinky down, it adds 1 extra note. You do have to really stretch. It can't be next to your third finger. There's a big, big space between your third and fourth finger. So this is a good thing to try. That note is called high E. If you can't get it perfectly, though, I will not be upset because I know that is really tough and not something I would require you to know how to do in the first year of playing. But if you learn it now, it'll be easier when you do learn how to do it next year. So, other than that, measure 20 is, or exercise 20 is very similar to exercise 19. Take a look at the first two measures. It looks like the other half of the D major scale, right? In number 19, we played D, E, F sharp, G. Now in number 20, we play A, B, C sharp, high D. Let's play that together. Sounds like this. Then what I would call the open string measures, but you have to put 4 down for the high E. So it'll be A, 4 fingers, A, D. Okay, I know that one is tough. Okay, and then measures 5 and 6, like the second half of the D major scale again, but with quarter notes. A, B, C sharp, D. And then you actually have a different part here in the last two measures than violins. You actually have the same part as cellos and basses. It's kind of funny, you're with the violins the whole time, and then the last two measures you switch to team cello and bass. You have C sharp, high D, open D, E, E, A. So those last two measures are definitely the most challenging. They sound like this again. So I would recommend taking maybe 5 minutes to just look at those two measures and really get those down. They sound really cool. They're just a little bit tough, but I know you guys can do it. So that's 17 through 20 of String Gym. Make sure you go through them slowly, that you can play them well when you come back to your next lesson. And also remember to review numbers 1 through 8. Those are a lot easier. So you actually should not only be able to play numbers 1 through 8 perfectly, but you should be able to start playing them with the recordings that have the teacher part and be able to do them comfortably and start to do them successfully. So keep working hard on these. We will continue to work on them together in your next lesson.